Okay, grab your tea because what I'm about to tell you is wild. Something has always felt off about the way Meghan Markle and Prince Harry handled the birth of their kids, but now it's all starting to fall apart, loudly. Thanks to Lady Colin Campbell and Tom Bower, two royal biographers who absolutely do not play around, we're finally seeing behind the curtain. And what's behind it? Oh, honey, it's messy. Let's start with Archie. From the second Meghan announced she was pregnant, everything was weirdly controlled. Unlike every other royal baby before, there were no smiling pictures outside the hospital, no updates from doctors, no cute hospital hallway hustle, nothing. Just a sterile press release. We were told Meghan gave birth at Portland Hospital in London. But Lady C, she's calling it out. She says there were no staff sightings, no official movements, not even a whiff of a royal presence there. Not a single doctor confirming anything. Radio silence. And let's be real, this was supposed to be a royal birth. Where were the flashing cameras? The crowd of fans? The whole royal tradition moment? Nope. Nothing. Now here's where the whispers turn into roars. There's talk, big talk, that Archie might not have even been born in the UK. Yes, you heard that right. Sources close to Lady C say the story doesn't add up. No hospital verification, no travel details, and not one credible eyewitness. And if he wasn't born in the UK, it's not just a PR oopsie. It could mess with his royal legitimacy. And considering Harry and Meghan were already skating on thin royal ice, this is dangerous. But buckle up, it gets even messier when we get to Lilibet. So after the UK baby drama, Meghan and Harry head to California, and suddenly, baby number 2. You'd think they'd want a clean start, right? Nope. According to Tom Bower, Lilibet's birth certificate has weird gaps, like important information just missing. Why? Why leave stuff out? What's with all the smoke and mirrors? But here's the real kicker. Remember how they named her Lilibet, the Queen's childhood nickname? We were told they got the Queen's blessing, but palace insiders backing up Lady C say that's not true at all. There was no proper conversation, no official okay. They didn't ask, they informed, and they did it in such a way that the Queen couldn't really say no without looking heartless. I mean, it's manipulative genius. Say nothing? She looks cold. Object? She looks cruel. Either way, Meghan wins. Behind closed doors, Meghan and Harry were micromanaging everything about their children's image. Every photo? Released weeks or even months later, and only on their terms. No official palace photographers, no royal doctors speaking, no nothing. Everything felt produced, like a trailer for a movie, not a real moment. Every smile, every angle, perfectly framed, and honestly, they might have gotten away with it until Lady C and Tom Bower came sniffing around, because once they started digging, the whole picture started to crack. Get this, Meghan edited Archie's birth certificate after it was already filed, quietly. Weeks later, she removed her real name, Rachel Meghan, and just left Her Royal Highness the Duchess of Sussex. Why? What was the reason? Lady C thinks it was image control. She wanted to scrub away the common part of her identity and just keep the royal shine. Total Hollywood move. Even the palace was shocked, like full-on blindsided. They put out a rare public statement saying they had nothing to do with it. That's how big a deal it was. This wasn't about protecting the kids, this was about rebranding. Carefully, calculatedly, and the palace wasn't having it. But things hit overdrive when rumors started that Meghan was actively avoiding royal medical staff during both pregnancies. Every other royal birth has a system. Vetted doctors, monitored appointments, royal officials involved, but not this time. Sources say Meghan brought in her own private doctors who had nothing to do with the royal family. And apparently, she didn't tell anyone until the very last minute. One palace insider even admitted, "We had no clue what was happening or where she was." That's not privacy. That's a cover-up. No photographers, no official records, no security logs. It started looking a lot less like privacy and a lot more like hiding something. And now, even legal experts, royal commentators, and former palace staff are asking the same question. What exactly were they hiding? Let's not forget the money. Lady C and Tom Bower say Meghan and Harry were counting on Netflix to fund their new superstar lifestyle. But plot twist, those big headlines about massive multi-million-dollar deals, super misleading. They didn't get paid up front. They only got paid for content that delivered. And guess what? Most of their stuff didn't. One series was a polo-based drama, yes, polo, and it tanked. Another show was scrapped before it even aired, so without content bringing in the cash, their brand started to crumble. And once Lady C and Bower started pulling the curtain back on their perfect image, the financial stakes got very real. That's when Meghan's legal team started moving in. Sources say they sent cease and desist letters to outlets covering the story. Lady C interview clips were flagged. Writers were pressured, but it completely backfired. Instead of scaring the media, it made them even more curious. One Daily Mail insider said, "The more they threaten, the more curious we get." Even American media, who had been super protective of Meghan, started to crack. Suddenly, Page 6, New York Post, gossip blogs, everyone was asking if there's nothing to hide. Why so much silence? So while Meghan and Harry were lawyering up and trying to muzzle the media, guess what was happening outside their Montecito bubble? The public started waking up. In the UK, polls showed over 65% of people no longer believed the couple had been truthful about their exit from royal life. And in the US, even former die-hard fans, especially parents, began to speak up. They weren't buying the whole "we're just protecting our children" narrative anymore. Why? Because editing birth certificates, avoiding royal doctors, refusing palace photographers, it all screamed manipulation, not protection. Their brand, which once looked like a fresh freedom-fighting fairy tale, started to look like a carefully built facade. And with every unanswered question, the story stopped being about privacy. It started being about trust. Inside Buckingham Palace, the atmosphere had changed completely. They weren't defending Harry and Meghan anymore. They were strategizing, silent, cold, and calculated. And at the center of that storm, Prince William. Sources close to Tom Bower say William has been taking the lead behind closed doors, and he is furious. Not just because the family's name is being dragged through scandal after scandal, but because to him, Meghan and Harry's actions feel like a deliberate attack on the institution their grandmother dedicated her life to. And you want to know what really pushed William over the edge? Lilibet's name. When Meghan and Harry announced that their daughter would be named Lilibet Diana, it seemed sweet on the surface. A nod to the Queen's childhood nickname, a tribute to Diana. What could go wrong, right? Well, everything. Palace insiders were blindsided. They say Meghan and Harry didn't ask the Queen, they just told her. It wasn't a conversation. It wasn't approval. It was a PR move. They dropped the name publicly, putting the Queen in a lose-lose situation. If she objected, she'd look heartless. If she said nothing, people would assume she gave her blessing. According to a former staffer, they told Her Majesty they were doing it, but they didn't ask. That's not a tribute. That's manipulation. Lady C said the Queen was deeply hurt, not just by the name, but by the presumption. And while the world cooed over the sweet gesture, the palace was seething. That moment, it cut deeper than anyone outside realized, and it marked the point where the Sussexes officially went from being misunderstood royals to full-blown opportunists in the eyes of the firm. What's wild is how fast the media tide turned after that. Suddenly, the same American outlets that once praised Meghan for modernizing the monarchy were now asking uncomfortable questions. Why were there so many contradictions in her interviews? Why was her past being cleaned up so carefully? And it wasn't just the big players anymore. Even entertainment blogs and gossip columns, places that usually fawn over celebs, were scrutinizing the Sussexes. Their carefully crafted image? Shattering. Social media data showed engagement dropping on anything Harry and Meghan related. People weren't tuning in like they used to. The fairy tale was cracking, and here's the scariest part. For them, at least, they were running out of time to control the narrative. Because with Lady C and Tom Bower promising even more revelations, it's like the entire Sussex image is being held together with tape, and the flood is coming. So what did Meghan and Harry do? They doubled down. Sources say Meghan hired crisis PR experts, expanded her legal team, and tried to regain control over their crumbling narrative. But even people close to the couple were starting to whisper that it was all too late. The edits to Archie's birth certificate? Still unexplained. Why remove Rachel Meghan and leave only the royal title? Tom Bower calls it exactly what it looks like, image engineering. She wasn't just changing paperwork, she was trying to erase the Meghan Markle identity and leave behind only the Duchess, purely royal, carefully curated, subtle, yes, but when you look at it all together, every edit, every secretive move, it paints a very clear picture. This wasn't about escaping the monarchy, it was about repackaging it and trying to sell it back to the world. They didn't just walk away, they walked away with the crown still clutched in their hands. But now, that crown is slipping. Here's the raw truth. Meghan and Harry built an empire around the idea that they were wronged, rejected, and forced to flee. They told the world they were just trying to live in peace, protect their kids, and write their own story. But now, with every inconsistency, every quiet edit, every false claim exposed, that story is falling apart. And the royal family, they're not screaming, they're not firing back, they're doing the one thing Harry and Meghan didn't expect. They're watching, waiting, letting the Sussexes burn through every last drop of goodwill, because the truth doesn't go away, not when you try to hide it, not when you legally threaten it, not when you spin it into Netflix content, it just gets louder. So now the world is left asking the one question Meghan and Harry have yet to answer. Was all the secrecy ever about protection? Or was it just the biggest royal PR illusion of our time?